Welcome to episode 161 of the Startup Show. Today, I'm talking to the CEO and co-founder of Lykke, Richard Olsen, and we're talking about the crypto and blockchain space, how he started. We talk about Benoit Mandelbrot, but we also talk about why you should see your life as zeros and ones. Make sure to stay tuned for the whole video. Welcome to episode 161 of the Startup Show. Today we are here at Trust Square in Zurich, and I'm talking to the CEO and co-founder of Lykke, Richard Olsen. Welcome to the show.
Joy to be with you. Thanks for coming.
Richard, as usual on the Startup Show, our aim is to give our entrepreneurs on the show a quick time to introduce themselves to my audience and all the investors out there that have no idea who you are, with a quick background about you.
So my background is fintech. I started fintech way before people ever talked about fintech. I originally studied law and economics, then joined a bank. And early on, it was clear to me banking is about information. And reading in Time magazine way back in 1985 that in Boston they created startups. I wanted to build my first startup in Zurich. So I set up a company called Olsen Associates, building a real-time information system using big data at the time when hard disks were really heavy. After many setbacks, we launched a service which was providing real-time forecasts and trading information across Europe for the big banks. We had a big success in '95 where we organized a high-frequency data conference, making tick data available. Out of this, a lot of different services emerged, but in particular, we launched a spin-off called Oanda, which was the first internet company because the internet was just arising. We were selling tick data to UBS at $500,000 and started in '96 to make FX data available for free on the internet. And then in 2001, we launched the first fully automated trading platform, revolutionizing foreign exchange trading, allowing the man in the street to buy and sell currencies as if he were Soros, at the same narrow spreads with no ticket fees. So this was an immediate shooting star, had also zero processing delays, and everyone had the same price, and interest rate payments were made second by second. And for me, this was then a statement that I wanted to change the back end of how banking worked. In 2007, we raised a lot of capital, and I wanted to turn the company into a Google of market making. I then lost my power within Oanda. Oanda became a very conservative company. I tried to build a hedge fund using the quantitative models to implement a new way of managing assets. That didn't work. And in 2011, I at last suddenly realized, Bitcoin, which I didn't understand why people were kind of pleading to kind of introduce Bitcoin as the global currency, I suddenly realized, this is actually about blockchain. And blockchain is the back end for a financial system which could be redeveloped using this technology. Mm-hmm. But not wanting to make my same mistake, which I had always done in the past, of starting a project too early, decided to just wait. In 2015, when I went to an art gallery, people approached me, you have to buy Bitcoin. I knew now is the time to start. So this is when I started Lykke, which we're talking about now.
Before you started with Lykke, you had Oanda. Maybe you can quickly explain to us what helped you during the process of founding Lykke that you learned during Oanda.
First of all, I mean, the big advantage of me, I've made so many mistakes. Yes. There is not a mistake that I have not made. So big advantage is, I know the many things which go wrong. But very important, I have experience on how to market on the internet, how to create a fintech in this very complex world, and to navigate the regulatory kind of environment. And fifth is the financial engineering. It's not just coming up with new technology regarding blockchain, but also reimagining how you do finance application and create revolutionary new banking applications. Just have lots of experience. And what I want to do with Lykke is all the ideas which I've collected over the years, put them into a box, mix it, and let's play that.
Before every interview, we ask around in the network and see what information we can find that is not really so available online. And one of the things that I was made aware of by a friend of ours is about the book Fraktale und Finanzen, which by Benoit Mandelbrot. And apparently, there's one chapter that significantly mentions you several times, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit about what that topic was all about.
I have to just back up. Few of us are aware of the significance of Mandelbrot. Mandelbrot has in the meantime died, and he was, I think, one of the greatest scientists of the last century. And I have to explain the following. So he's a mathematician, and during the war, he was not able to go to school. He had a famous professor who was his uncle who gave him the books, geometry, maths book to read. And when he read them like this and said, but strange, they do not describe what I see when looking out of the window. Nature never has straight lines, circles, triangles. It's irregular lines. And his passion was to understand nature and describe it in mathematical terms. So how did we get to know him? Way back in '89, IBM was very interested to invest in Olsen Associates at the time. And I knew number 7 in IBM, and he tried to convince his management to get IBM to write us a big check. And then he flew in Mandelbrot from New York to come and visit us. And it was one of the most incredible meetings. He came to our office. We were nervous because we had discovered, based on his work, a scaling law in financial markets, which was very relevant. And it was like in this scene of when you have Cassius Clay doing his box match. The first hour, we were all frightened. He was frightened, we were frightened, no one would say. And then eventually we would explain, and we had a very interesting conversation. But this is how a friendship started. Kind of over the years, we had been lots of contacts where he appreciated what we're doing, and his work has been inspirational because he opened in science the avenue of how to explain nature and introduce the mathematical framework to deal with that. And in the work which I'm doing now and the financial engineering, his work is key to our approach.
So let's quickly go back to when you decided to start Lykke. Basically, I think it's about 4.5 years ago, where blockchain and crypto was not at all a topic yet, especially in the mainstream media. Maybe you can elaborate what you saw back then that convinced you to say, this is the future and that's where you have to invest your time now.
First, during my career, I had from Oanda first-hand experience of financial markets. Even before that, I was investigating how the mechanics of the markets work. And one thing is clear, financial markets as we know them today are far more broken than you'd ever imagine. You never enter a car that's built like that. My motivation is, let's create a society which, can be at peace with nature. But to make it to be at peace with nature and with ourselves, the nervous system and financial markets have to work well. So I was passionate about achieving this goal and was always looking for the back end for this kind of infrastructure. And blockchain was clear to me that this is the answer. So it was just a matter of when starting it.
Okay, so I think let's not hold back our audience much longer to understand what Lykke is, because we haven't really spoken about that yet. So maybe you can introduce this to everybody and tell them exactly what Lykke is.
So blockchain is a global notary service which allows for the tokenization of any share, bond, legal rights. So future is lots of tokens which you own, which you want to get. But what people do not realize is on top of that, we need a global marketplace where these tokens can be bought and sold. Lykke is building the ecosystem for this marketplace. It's a free of charge marketplace, accessible to everyone, a level playing field. How do we earn money? We are creating financial products which create value for the exchange as well. So Lykke is building an ecosystem for this marketplace.
Now, when you look and you say, like, you know, you've been in this game since before the actual hype of all ICOs and everything, what would you say is the most, let's say, challenge that you saw when you talk to customers, but also when you talk to investors and people around Lykke?
First of all, it's just very hard to imagine a world which we can hold on to. Just imagine the people who developed the smartphone. They created something completely new. And if 10 years ago you would want to enter a room and explain what apps are about, people were just open-eyed. They couldn't imagine it. And the same thing is today. People cannot imagine what a revolutionized new financial system looks like. So it's very hard to have a good dialogue.
So what would you say, like, where are you right now with the development of the platform? How many users? What are they doing right now on the platform?
We have 100,000 people who have downloaded or have access to our wallet. We have 30,000 users who have actually gone through KYC. And all our wallet holders have a wallet is, if you think about it, a very simple bank account where you don't have a traditional bank account, but you actually have them in a tokenized form. It today covers currencies, it covers cryptos and utility tokens, and gives you a kind of prototype use of what you can do with that.
Now, one of your, let's say, achievements over the last couple of years, according to Crunchbase, you raised about roughly 10 million in total of funds, out of which, if it's correct, about 6 million was through an ICO. What was, let's say, the process like for you, and how was that going down for you, like this process of conducting an ICO?
So, first of all, we started and did an ICO before people really talked about it. So we did an ICO for a security token. So the LKK is a right to Lykke shares. Now, as it turns out, we should have first created a utility token which is freely distributable. So because it's a security token, actually it cannot be listed on other exchanges and prove to be a mistake, as well as there are, kind of other issues, lack of liquidity, etc. But it was just a kind of, for me, it was important to establish a proof of concept, show how it works, and also make the first mistakes.
Now, what would you say are the closest next steps on your roadmap to success of Lykke in the next couple of years?
We have a wallet which has grown historically. What we need as a next step is an easy wallet. I mean, worldwide, there are 35 million people who have today a wallet in this new kind of blockchain world, but there are 5.5 billion people who don't yet have a wallet.
Well, so don't know about it yet.
Yes, so let's give them a very easy wallet.
Yes.
So that's point one. The second is actually the true game changer, is to get an OTF license from FINMA here in Switzerland. This is Organized Trading Facility License. And it's a license which is very well curated. That is, we've spent a lot of time to make sure that we get the right approvals. And what makes that license, when it actually will happen, so exciting is that blockchain will be this security depository. People, organizations from around the world can come to Lykke, to our OTF, and issue tokens. And for those tokens which are issued on our platform, they'll be freely transferable around the world with blockchain being the backend. So this will be a game changer. It will create an explosion of number of the so-called stable coins, if you talk about the industry.
Talking about the industry, which is definitely the next topic. I mean, again, like you saw this entire hype going on with the ICOs and cryptos in general. What would you say, how did like the crypto scene and the blockchain scene evolve over time, looking at it from a professional perspective?
I think a big issue is, for the whole scene, is, Rome was not built in one day. To create this infrastructure tools, I mean, this is a huge task. And we also have to realize that for the end user, we have to have a Tinder-like user experience. We're kind of the level of sophistication which we're used to in everyday life is very high. So all these applications have to be really smooth. and they have to be well designed from a kind of operational point of view. And this is not easy. So this will just take a lot of work. The second issue, which I think has been an issue in the whole blockchain world, is that people thought just it's about blockchain. No, it's a much bigger project. And for me, the actual use case is what I call the financial system 2.0. So it's not this application or a little bit this application, it's actually reimagining banking and the financial industry.
Well, then I have to ask you how you imagine it.
So for me, it's pretty simple. I mean, I dream of your smartphone being your personal private bank. It's not like in the old days where there are a few private bankers who have their big villas where they kind of mansions where they live in style. No, everyone has his own personal private bank. Everyone can make investments directly, can get credit at razor-sharp terms. Not as it is now, if you're a retail person, the only way to get an overdraft is to get your credit card overdraft at 17-15%. No, get them at the same rate as if you were a central bank. What I imagine is a very cost-efficient kind of financial system which is integrated in our everyday lives.
Now, when you look at, let's say, the funniest or the most disturbing misconceptions that you've heard of blockchain, or like what the future will look like, what would they be?
Misconceptions, I think, one is that people think it's so different from today. No, it's actually making things which you as a user person would think natural, let's make it natural.
What would you say when you look at, let's say, the ecosystem in Switzerland, and especially when we go a little bit more on a global scale, what would you say how Switzerland can position itself, let's say, specifically in blockchain, but also crypto on a global level?
One thing which I think Switzerland is doing well is that it gets endorsement from the government and the regulators. But now there's a big mistake. I mean, we immediately pat ourselves on the shoulders and think we do a great job. Yes, it is great that we're moving this direction, but the world at large is moving fast. And what we underestimate, that in other parts of the world, there's much more money available. So to build a business here in Switzerland is just very, very tough.
What's your perception on the crypto valley and its perception around the world?
So first, I mean, undoubtedly, it's great work which they're doing. I mean, it's, they try to innovate, very active, so very admirable. What has to be said, what's lacking is in Silicon Valley, when you go to Starbucks, you have 2 or 3 billionaires being in Starbucks. Here, when you walk around the streets, there are old money of people which were rich, but not people who themselves made the money, who know the feeling of getting it wrong and then, helping someone out.
How would you say, on a regulatory level, how would Switzerland, I mean, with the FINMA, we have a lot already covered, but what would you say is still needed on a regulatory level for Switzerland to really become this place for crypto companies?
I think very important is that one has to kind of be more radical, forward-looking in how to really solve the difficult problems. And the difficult problem is kind of, now when I look at our application, think of it has 150 annexes for the OTF. It's an incredibly cumbersome, labor-intensive process. So we have to embrace new concepts of regulation, including crowd intelligence.
What are some tips for balancing work and life?
Have fun. Do what you love.
Can you explain how you do that, in one sentence?
I try to live a holistic life. So the family is important, the kind of work is important, and I try to embed in all domains the same set of ideas. And my dream is to live without thinking.
To live without thinking. Well, I guess it goes beyond the scope of this question, but I would love to hear more. What do you think is the most important character in an entrepreneur?
Be trustworthy and be a kind person. Don't bullshit.
What do you think is important in an investor?
Again, sincere guy, honorable person, kind of try to understand and, don't be afraid to say no or yes and show true enthusiasm.
What traits do you look for when you hire someone?
Authenticity and just someone who shows sparkle.
And the last one, what do you think is your best selling strategy?
Do what you're passionate about. And then don't mind if you're rejected, just do what you think is important and stand up for that. Don't hesitate to get it wrong. I mean, really, think of life as, kind of like the computer program, which is built on zeros and ones. And think if your computer had difficulty in processing the zeros which represent negative events. So process negative events with the same ease as the ones and try to learn from all the negative events.
Very good. So Richard, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks.
I really appreciated your insights. Thank you very much, everybody who stayed all the way till the end of episode 161 of the Startup Show. Make sure to stay a few more seconds so you see who is up next week. Thank you so much for watching today. I wish you a great Monday, and I'll see you next Monday. Have a great day.
Hi everybody, my name is Andy Heitzmann. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Fraktale, digital procurement solution and marketplace for the healthcare industry. Going to be hosted next week by Cedric's Startup Show. Please follow us, check in, and stay tuned.